Maximalism is great, and so is minimalism, but it's our time now. So hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elyse Andrews and I make videos every Tuesday talking about my post-grad stresses and successes and also art and design and other things I'm into. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about maximalism, what it is, why I love it, why I did my thesis on it, what my thesis was all about, and some other stuff. So also the hot question, what do I think of minimalism? But we'll get into that all in this video. And today we've got on some cute earrings from my friend Christina and this nice colorful fish shirt that I have. It's kind of, we've got more patterns going on, more colors, but yeah, I, Elyse, consider myself a maximalist, I guess, if we're categorizing ourselves here. I'm not a minimalist, as you can probably see from my room. I like to keep things clean, but I like having stuff and I like the energy that my stuff brings me. So what is maximalism though? So maximalism, I've tried to film this video a few times and I find myself stuck with trying to define maximalism in an easy way. It's kind of just like more stuff, more pattern, more color, more energy, more lines, more things in combination with other things. I think it's easy to understand it when you think about the opposite of minimalism, but that can be kind of dangerous because I think that has a negative connotation, since minimalism is often about getting rid of things and cleaning up your life. I don't necessarily think that maximalism is about bringing more things and stress into your life. I think that's not a good way to think of it. But in my personal belief, I find maximalism to be something that you can see in art, in design, in architecture, in fashion, one of my favorite places to look at it, and a lifestyle. And I also explored its purpose in graphic design in my honors thesis that I did for my communication major. Maximalism, in terms of some design elements, is the incorporation of patterns, illustrations, color, energy, and maybe mixing and matching things that wouldn't necessarily go together based off of simple design principles. And each of these categories that maximalism finds its way into are incredibly different, so it's really hard to define exactly what maximalism is. Maximalism in graphic design, from my research, stems a lot from the postmodern era of graphic design, which happened after kind of the Swiss modernist time period, which gave a lot of corporate identity, and it was really important. Minimalism is really important because it helps set design standards and guidelines and principles to know that you can make good work with. But as with so many things, whether it be in art history or fashion history or architecture, like I've mentioned, we find that we are going through cycles of trends and what we like in different ends of the spectrum. And I think currently we are moving into a more maximalist period after a very long time of being really into minimalist design. As a society, I think we have moved a little bit beyond the minimalist taste that we got from the early 2000s to the 2010s and into the 20-teens because of technology and the forced minimalism that came out of it due to restrictions on web design and screen sizes and things like that. So that's just my prediction, just my thoughts. Again, this video is just a collection of my thoughts on maximalism and why I like it. One way I've heard people talk about maximalism, specifically in this one podcast from Hyperallergic, was kind of thinking about decadence and excess and gold, kind of from the perspective of a big mansion or a castle, a palace covered in gold and rococo and things like that. And while I think that can be one interpretation of maximalism, I personally think that the current surge in popularity of maximalism is actually more related to the Memphis art group and their influence on popular culture in the 1980s. For example, you might not know what Memphis Design Group is, but you've definitely seen stuff like it, and you've definitely seen kind of the old MTV graphics and that style, just very 80s. 80s fashion, 80s beauty, roller rink floors. I think that's more where we're getting it from instead of this, very decadent, beautiful, very expensive palace. So let me tell you about my thesis. So I was inspired to do this thesis. I got into maximalism a decent amount of time ago, maybe around 2.5 years ago, when I found this article from AIGA Ion Design about Chobani's rebrand. I think it's amazing. And I was reading this article and it talked about this idea of millennial minimalism, and it wondered, is it on its way out? And I just thought that was so interesting. I'm also interested in generations and the differences in between generations. And that was originally going to be part of my thesis, but I changed my mind on that. I was just thinking, what is the response to millennial minimalism? Why, if it's on its way out, what's taking its place? And so, my brain was like, maximalism, that's what it is. So I started thinking about that more and looking into food branding. And I thought it was really interesting, and it kind of bothered me how a lot of packaging I noticed from foods in the grocery store were sort of becoming more minimalist, but it wasn't because they were representing a minimalist product like flour or like a meal replacement. I think minimalist design works great for that, but personally, I think that food is filled with life and energy and color and flavor, and the best way of advertising that and showing that off in packaging is through maximalism and maximalist principles. I was really inspired by craft beer in particular because it's a product category where kind of all of these products are sort of the same, and the way that the consumer is picking which product they want is oftentimes dependent on the label. Same with wine. And so, especially in craft beer, I just saw so many great examples, so many colorful examples, trying to communicate what the flavor and what the experience of drinking that beer is like. And I thought that was so neat. And so with all of these thoughts in my head, I went in to write my thesis, and I worked with a food startup, and I helped them with their packaging. It was really cool, it was really fun, and I really enjoyed making it. But what about minimalism, you might ask? Do you hate minimalism? No, I don't hate minimalism. I just kind of hate what it's become in some ways. I hate how minimalism is used as a default and is considered the easy way of branding. My general belief is that for different product categories and different individual brands, you have to make the decision on what you want to communicate to your consumer, and you want to communicate information about the product that they're buying, or the feeling of the product they're buying, or the experience of it. And like I said, in general, food and beverage is more flavorful and colorful. Technology is more minimalist because technology is just a vehicle for you to create your own things. So it's kind of like a blank slate. I read this interesting study about the use of maximalism and minimalism kind of in the context of power when it comes to packaging, in that having something that's maximalist kind of is a little overwhelming, but it's like the job is all done for you, if this makes sense. With minimalism, you are the one who is going to do something. There's more, power to the consumer whenever there is a minimalist package, because, maybe it's a chef picking up some flour, and that chef already knows exactly what to do with it because they're professional, they're trained, or maybe just a very good home cook can also know what to do with it. But for someone less experienced, for example, if they're trying to make muffins and they're a little intimidated to just use this plain flour at the store, using a muffin mix with kind of more information, more color, more energy, kind of describing the final product that they'll be making and receiving, that might be a little more comfortable to a less experienced chef. I hope this makes sense. I don't know if it really does, but it's just kind of about how, if you're standing in front of, just a blank piece of paper versus standing in front of a beautiful piece of artwork by a master. But yeah, I don't like what minimalism has really become, in that people think that it's easy or a default. I think a lot of startups fall into this issue, which I know it can be difficult because startups are just trying to make their product, get out there, do their thing, but branding is really important and design is really important. And I think that startups should consider what they're trying to communicate to their customer through design more. And if minimalism is what works for them, they should go for it, but it's going to be really hard to distinguish their own brand from others if they're just kind of using a lot of white, a lot of sans serif fonts in a very uncreative way, just kind of sticking to basic layouts. While that is very trendy now and people might be into it right now, I can definitely see a shift in people and wanting something more than just minimalism. And I'm really thankful that we had this wave of minimalism because I think it inspired a lot of change and a lot of good in people's lives, because we did have a lot of stuff, too much stuff. I don't really view maximalism as trying to obtain more things, just gather a lot of stuff. To me, it's more about using what I have and not necessarily throwing things away. And I think that that's a really important perspective to have, especially in the world we're living in right now. And also when it comes to sustainability and the environment, that's a common critique I've seen of minimalism, is just like throwing things away is not very sustainable. But I think that if you already have a lot of things, you should hold on to them, treasure them, maybe get rid of some things that don't really make you happy or that you truly do not need anymore. But for me, like I said, maximalism is keeping track of what you have, using things sustainably, and enjoying them in your life. Also, decoration is fun, and to me, I really enjoy having a bit of a cluttered room, like you can see in the background. I like having things on my walls. I just like the energy that maximalism can bring into my life. It's a little bit of chaos, but I love it. I like maximalism as organized chaos in a way. But when it comes to choosing what's best for your brand or for your project or your art piece or anything you're doing, I think it just really depends on the content within your project, what it's really about, who you're trying to communicate with, and what you're trying to communicate about that product or message. But I do lean maximalist. I think it's fun. I think it's great. I cannot wait until maximalism becomes more trendy, the bigger thing going on right now. And I don't think we need to fight about it with minimalists very much, because maximalism is great, and so is minimalism. But it's our time now, so more is more, less is less. If you want to read about maximalism, I think this is an excellent book to look into. If you want to read my thesis about maximalism, you can look at it. I'll link something down below. I don't think I can link in video yet, but thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, let me know if you would be interested in seeing more content about design. I'm trying to figure out how I want to talk about it, but yeah, maximalism, great, love it. So how do you define maximalism? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, I think that's it. Bye.